Hello, everybody, and welcome back to another episode here on the First Call Ready podcast. We're happy to have you here, back for our second episode. Feels like we're pros now.
We are, one under our belt and moving right along.
Well, one thing you never fall short on in a 911 center is communication. And what I find most comical about that fact is that the reality is, even though our entire job involves communication, sometimes that's what we struggle with the most in our centers.
Yes, we do. It's unfortunate, but it is something that we all encounter. Addressing our peers is sometimes the toughest.
And one of the things that I hear the most on our YouTube channels and feedback on our reels is the reality of a toxic center or the lack of being able to facilitate positive communication in our centers.
And to that I say, speak up, Buttercup.
Which is the title of today's episode, Speak Up, Buttercup. This episode is really all about empowering everyone in our centers to be accountable for the environment that's in the room.
I often say, time and time again, I say peer pressure is the best pressure. I think the first mistake we make is waiting to go like supervisors will take care of it, management will take care of it, and sometimes it's the little things, right? It's just like, it really bothers me when Susie is chomping away on her Taco Bell with her mouth open the whole time. Well, if you don't say anything, how is anyone going to know to correct, their behavior?
Yeah.
So I think we really got to start there is if something's bothering us, we're adults. We need to get that out on the table.
Yeah, and I think, I actually had this conversation recently is that where is it coming from, right? Like what is our intention behind the communication? I want to communicate with my partner because I want my partner to be better in some way, shape, or form, right? Sometimes it's a better for a selfish reason, like Susie, stop smacking on that taco you didn't offer me any of.
You're just,
But the feedback can't come from like this negative, like you're doing it wrong, listen to me type of mentality.
I read something recently where they talked about feedback really being a gift. And if you really look at it from that lens, like feedback is a gift. It doesn't mean like not all feedback is great feedback. It doesn't mean you agree with all the feedback you get. But if someone's courageous enough to give you some feedback, I think that's something we need to lean in on a little bit.
Yeah. And I think it kind of streams back to like empowering our people to just give general suggestions into our centers, right? Like, let's talk about how we schedule it. Like, feel empowered to give that information, but understand your idea might be wonderful, but it might not always be a yes. So your feedback might be wonderful, but that doesn't mean the person's going to always take it and do as they're asked.
And if you're giving feedback and you feel like, well, they don't do anything that I say, or it's not being well received, it doesn't mean stop. Just look at it. I think that's the worst thing we can do is let it stifle us and then just be like, well, I'm not contributing anymore. Because if we're banking on supervision, management, the chief, whoever, that, well, they know, and they're just not doing anything. We can't assume people know. I think that's the other thing we need. And that's where the communication in the room is. We're great about communicating outwards. We got to communicate with the officers, the firefighters, the citizens, the public, everybody. But do we just sit in that room and let things fester? Or do we actually bring something to the table?
Yeah. And I mean, what from a management lens, like how are you wanting your people to communicate with each other?
I often say is peer pressure is the best pressure. And I really do mean that because I think when you go to you have to, follow your chain of command. But when you go to a supervisor, I would hope most supervisors are asking like, great, have you talked to him or her about that? Because I also feel like if you want change to be implemented, I want to please my partner, Ashley, more than I want to get talked to by a supervisor where I'm like, oh, yep, they're just, supervisor's just ragging on me again.
You know what I just had the thought of is noise complaints, right? I feel like this is a conversation we have constantly with citizens, okay? Hello, my neighbors, they're having this loud party, or their music's loud, et cetera, et cetera. Awesome. One of the questions I always ask them, because it's a polite prompt, is have you gone over and talked to them about this? And the response is always, what? No.
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 Yeah.
Well, your
The audacity, you asked me that.
Your coworker does not want you calling the police on them either, okay? Your coworker, it is not nice. No one likes when the police show at their door, especially for a noise complaint. Talk to your neighbors, right? The same, I think, goes to our no one wants supervisor to cold turkey pull them into this meeting about this thing that this person hasn't addressed. And you can't be anonymous. Okay,
that's exactly what I was going to say.
You can't make official complaints in your workplace that require your participation. We always want people to be safe and report, but if it's something that is affecting you, you got to be a willing participant. You got to be willing to be a victim. You know what I mean?
No victim, no crime.
No victim, no crime. So you have to be willing to be involved in the communication. If you're especially if you're needing to bring in a supervisor, but too often, what do supervisors hear? So-and-so in an issue, but I don't want them to know I'm the one saying anything.
Often that happens. And that is really, you're really putting the supervisor in a hard place, because supervisors do have to address issues, and sometimes you have to have a complainant, right? And either way, even if they don't and just address something, the hardest part is, we all know how we are in that center. Someone's be like, oh, so-and-so tattled on me. You know what I mean? And it's just, I just think if you give them a chance to fix it on their own. And it's not comfortable. It's not the conversations we like to have. And we like to tell people where to go and what to do all day. But when we have to have that difficult conversation, I think we often skirt that in the comm center, which I would really encourage people is just try it. It doesn't have to be contentious. You don't go, I don't want people to think you got to go in with this like fact checking and, it's just a quick conversation. Yeah. Like, hey, Ashley, I really need to get home to my family. So when you come in a couple minutes late each day, it's really set me back on getting dinner ready for the kids or whatever you do, And I think that's going to get probably a little more traction, a little bit like, oh man, I'm so sorry. It's just been a rough week for me. I'll work on that for you because I want to help my partner, out. That's a way better than going to the supervisor who's like, you've been late 3 times this week. One more time, we're going to have to go to, like give your own partner some grace, right? I think that's one way to go. And I think we're in the center, sometimes we elevate that a little bit quickly, or like, it's like, I'm going straight to the supervisor. I'm going straight to the union.
Which, hey, sometimes I'm a big union gal. Sometimes you gotta loop in your reps, right? But you gotta be willing to have the conversations first. Those checks and balances, if you will, are there to protect us. And in this line of work where you're mandated, where, you're a lot is being asked of you, sometimes management has to be reeled in a little bit too.
Absolutely.
Because they can test the boundaries. So all of those things, hella valid. Definitely utilize them, but you have to be willing to lead from the seat.
And I would hope that supervisors and managers, this is my ploy and my pledge to all of you, is hopefully when people are coming to you, you are giving people that option first and not just jumping onto I gotta handle things. We're all fixers. We know that's in our nature. But sometimes it's like taking that step back for a minute and be like, okay, just ask them like, hey, okay, is that something you talked to him or her about? And, because I think if we aren't setting that example or making it seem normal and more comfortable, then we're probably not going to get as many people participating.
Yeah. And one of the things that you hear often, I think especially in first responder roles, is like, we're like a family, which, okay, cool, I guess. But...
And we all don't get along in our families.
We all don't get along, right?
But
at the end of the day, like, this is my job. And you guys are my coworkers, and maybe I like you enough that we're hanging out outside of work. Cool. But at the end of the day, if Megan's my supervisor, I don't need her to be a really good person. I need her to be a really good supervisor. My shift partner, probably great people. But I don't need them to be a great person. I need them to show up to shift on time. I need them not to call out sick, so there are, I think, natural limits to that reality that we need to acknowledge and be a little more accountable for, because then we show up a little differently in the space, right?
Yes.
Like, I want to be able to communicate openly with you. I want to for you to show up and do your bare minimum. And sometimes that's all we have the energy for, right? But just shifting that a little bit, like, yeah, we're family, but I need something more from you because you're playing a certain role in my life, right? Does that make sense?
It does. And I kind of think it goes back to the whole, like, that feedback is a gift, right? Like, and it's just like, if we embrace it in that way, you know, like we all have, like, again, like we said, not all family gets along all the time, you know, and or they have a fight and then, you know, make up and get back together. I'm not encouraging any fights in the comm center, but I just think if we open that communication line like we do with the citizens, with, you know, everybody else that we do in our job, then if we do that with our partners, I think that would have a little bit of an impact on the dynamics of the room. And that's the first thing when people say, oh, our room is toxic or so, like, why? And what are you doing about it? Or what are you doing to help fix it? Because it's not, you can't put that on someone else to really fix, you know?
Heavy on the what are you doing to affect this room, right? I always say we've all worked with that dispatcher where they come into shift and you're like, you know, they're here and they just like suck the air out of the room, right? The reality is it's really, really hard to, in my opinion, match good energy with consistent bad energy. Like, it takes a lot of effort for the other individual. If Megan just coming in being an asshole today, right? Like, and I'm like, hey, Megan, do you want some of my taco? And she's like, you know, yeah, forget your taco, Ash. She's like, all right, that's cool.
I don't like tacos.
Right? And I come down, hey, I'm going to the vending machine. Anybody want something from the vending machine? Megan, you want something? No, I don't want anything from there. Okay, all right, you know, and then, you know, but it's really
exhausting.
It's really hard to match like that negative energy with that positive energy. Really easy for me to stay positive, really hard for you to stay negative, right? So that's how I always combat those situations. Like, I'm not going to let anyone else's energy change who I am. And if I need to set a boundary and have a conversation, I'm going to do that. But sometimes people are just having bad days or months.
And I think to that point is, I often tell this story, and I'll probably say it a million times, is my purple elephant story. Is I was working in the center and there was somebody that came in that it was like very close to me outside of work as well. But it got to the point when they came in, people were just kind of like, like it kind of, you said, like suck the air out of the room. Like, okay, what's the conspiracy theory today? Or what's the complaint going to be today? Because nothing can be right? And it was just starting to suck the energy out of the room. And, you know, because I cared so deeply about this person outside as well, because we do make, a lot of us probably have a really good best friend that we work with or have worked with before, right? And I was like, I'm just going to have the convo. And I said, hey, you know, and they're like, oh, I know I've been like that a lot lately. Sorry. But also like, well, like, we kind of agreed, like, call me out when I'm doing it. Like, let's come with something. And again, don't remember how we got there, but the code word was purple elephant. And then when that person was sucking the air out of the room or something, I'd just be like, purple elephant. And it was like, and even if they just kind of like zip it for a while and go like, okay, cool, I'm in that funk. I recognize I'm in that funk. I'm not going to say anything because I don't want to, you know, and would just withdraw. And then eventually it lead in. And the joke was we had a little purple elephant we would put on people's desk. If they were being that person that day, like, then you didn't even have to say anything. When they came back from the bathroom, they'd be like, ooh, I'm doing that today. Okay. Yeah. And like I said, it wasn't easy to do, but I was so surprised at their reaction of like, dang, I knew I was in a funk, but I didn't know it was like that impacting.
Yeah.
And they don't want to impact their partners in that way. So it could be that easy, you know?
I mean, but what an example of a conversation leading to a culture shift, right? So now everybody getting purple elephant, like it becomes a tool that you could utilize in your center to communicate without having to always communicate, right? So obviously, I think from a supervisor standpoint, you got to watch and make sure not everyone's bullying each other with a purple elephant, right? You know, the tools are only as good as the energy in the room. But I mean, what an easy fix to a tough conversation that continued to be used in that center.
Yeah, and I mean, you're gonna have relapses and fallbacks and people where that like
maybe
like
someone hides the purple.
Yes,
where's the purple elephant?
Yes. The elephant ain't working today. Okay, we talk about the elephant in the room. It's really here today, but it's not always successful. But I think if we're not like, I just look back at how grateful that person was that, like, thanks for giving me a chance to fix it, because I didn't quite realize it was like I was being the person that I used to always complain about, you know. But I think again, it's just it wasn't easy. It was a little bit easier because I had a relationship with this person outside, which I do think is another strategy you can use if you know there's a problem and you have someone who's closer to them. Probably a little, maybe depending on the person, a little more well received. But I mean, you kind of have to. The point here is back to the communication is just, you got to start somewhere.
Yeah. Just start. Because what's the other thing that this having this tough conversation ultimately helps? It helps with retention. Because no one, I repeat, no one wants to go somewhere every single day for 12 hours that they hate. I personally have said many times before, I would take a pay cut and work hundreds of hours of overtime and enjoy every minute of being around those people.
Have fun.
And just be in the trenches together than make $10,000 more and no overtime. No overtime. And I hate going to work every day. Just despise it. Like,
no, that
put
just
me in the trenches. I'd rather go there.
That just sucks the life out of you, right? Yeah. And I would say if you find a center that is fully staffed and you ask them how they did it, and even if they say, oh, I'm not really sure or whatever, but deep down, if you get them talking, I guarantee you it's rooted in culture. It's rooted in that, like, good environment, that supportive, everyone helps each other get their time off. They're supportive of each other. Obviously burnout and all those things come play, but deep rooted, if they're fully staffed, I would say there's probably something that ties to that, in my experience. And that is, I think, and that is solely like, that's the best retention tool. And that's 100%. No supervisor does that. No manager keeps you fully staffed in retention. That's the people in your room that are keeping you fully staffed. They are all committed to a good culture in that room. And we can say that. And then there's like the, responsibility on supervisors and manager to get the people in and, bring in the right people, all of that. But I think if you're setting that environment, that's, like you said, it's going to keep people to stay.
Yeah.
One of the things we talk about all the time at First Call Ready is that our profession deserves better. Better training, better support, better tools, better leadership.
That is exactly why we're excited to partner with This Gen 911. They're helping emergency communication centers hire better, train faster, and support their people.
Through realistic call simulations, immediate coaching, and tools designed for everyone, from trainees to supervisors and directors, they're helping build stronger teams behind the headset.
Because when dispatchers have the opportunity to practice, learn, make mistakes, and grow in a safe environment, they show up more confident when the real call comes in.
They're investing in the future of emergency communications and helping create the kind of profession we all want to be a part of.
Now let's get back to the show.
And I mean, talk about a great question for aspiring dispatchers to ask. Like, what's your turnover rate been? How many people have you lost this year? Cool. Like, why?
Yeah, why?
Why?
Yeah.
Like, and that's a valid question to ask. I posted a reel this week. Good applicants are consumers of information that will help them make a decision for their new department. And if your department if you're asking these questions about retention or about turnover, about mandated hours, and they feel a type of way about you asking that question, it's a red flag. Don't go work for that agency because, yes, mandated overtime is a reality. You will experience burnout in this center, in this line of work. You just will, because it goes in ebbs and flows. Like, that's just like how the staffing situation is. But how consistent is this issue? Why are people leaving? If I'm in a couple person seated center that doesn't have a lot of high call volume, and people are leaving constantly, why is that?
Right, throw the flag.
Throw the flag.
And that's where I think it's great to ask that. That's a very thoughtful question for your interviews. And to see their reaction is definitely a telltale sign. But I would even also say in those centers, are the CTOs asking questions like, why are we having such a turnover rate? That's self-reflection right there. Are you going to the CTO supervisor, the manager, like, we're losing people? Like, the reality is, and that's where supervisor and managers have to come in and say is, we need to change something. If we're not, it's not always I know it really is dependent on the person you get in your center, but it's not always just that. It's like, what are we doing? What are we seeing? You know, it can't always be the person. We have to change the way we train sometimes, you know? And I think that is, again, kind of we're talking about toxic cultures and speaking up is if something ain't working, we got to say something, you know? And as the CTOs are like, hey, this isn't like, it's like, what do they say? The definition of insanity is the same thing over and over. And it's like, we often do that. Here's this manual, train this way, move along. Are we ever reevaluating that? And like, you know, people are different now.
And what makes a good dispatcher, right? Like I am a big proponent, is that the right word? For our centers should be really reflective of the communities we serve. So what one person thinks a dispatcher is, it should look different. It should really be staffed with people who are different than one another, because everyone calling us all come from different walks of life. So that's what should be reflective in our centers.
We shouldn't want cookie cutter, because that's gonna be like a passive center, right? Because it's like, oh, we don't have any uniqueness, we don't have any, you know, like we just have this one cookie cutter type of people in there. That's not going to work. And then that also creates groupthink, and then we have no diverse thought in there, no diverse experiences bringing to the table, you know, and then we really are creating ourselves in is like a real strong silo. And that's not going to, eventually that's going to be a different kind of toxic center, you know?
I think that when a issue kind of blows up, we're too far past it, right? And that I think one of the best ways, at least from the top down, I think this can go anywhere from any person in our centers, is creating those conversations early, having monthly trainings about communication or any topic really, but really creating that team environment early, often. And so then when people do have to show up and have tougher conversations, they've already kind of been practicing it and mirroring it.
And that honestly is the best way, is like we do the mock interviews, right? And also, like, I know a lot, like I work with a lot of supervisors, like let's mock this difficult conversation. You know, you grab a partner you do trust in the room and say, hey, I'm going to talk to Ashley about this. And do you think if I say it like this, and then you have someone going in like, oh yeah, I wouldn't say it like that, but say this, and you know, this might resonate more. Like you said, it's the practice, you know what I mean? And maybe you're like, the word kind of gets out like, oh, so-and-so is going to try that addressing someone. I should try that with, you know, and again, we're talking about, sometimes things blow up. Sometimes it's the little things like the chomping too loud, you know, but then sometimes it's like, dude, she is just not sending medical on my calls. I have to like get someone to, you know, and like, yes, that is something eventually a supervisor needs to address. But honestly, think of the grace that you would want. Like, I would love for you to just come to me and like, hey, Megan, you missed a step on that. I'm just pointing it out because it just, you know, we got to do that. It doesn't seem like you usually do that. And I'm going to be like, cool. Thanks, Ashley. You didn't tattle on me. You know what I mean? Like, hey, thanks. And, you know, it's just a little more receptive. And you know what? What we really need to address is, we're not saying everyone's going to take this feedback and receive it well. That's not what we're saying.
In a perfect world, in a perfect world.
You know, maybe just show them this episode and then.
That's not passive aggressive at all. Like, I have this episode on communication.
Hey, you should really watch this. But yes, I would say that, you know, we can't always, it's not, this isn't the answer to it all. This is just a step of what we should be doing, you know, and that is like, let's give everybody a chance, give each other a little grace. It's building a better culture in there. I mean, if people see that and go like, oh, okay, you know.
I mean, the secret's out. There is no secret that these realities exist in our center, and we need to do something about it. And we can't. My biggest lesson from working in this line of work is no one is coming to save you. You have to sometimes be the person to save yourself. Resources run out, technology fails. We have to be accountable for things we can control. And what we can control is the environments in our dispatch centers.
That's your house. You're in your own house. So you get to, like, that's your home away from home. Like, you get to control, you know what I mean? Just like, hopefully, everyone, you control the temperature of the room. We all know we like it warm and cozy in those comm centers.
And
you
turn
know
the
what I
lights
mean?
off.
And turn the lights off.
Stop
Exactly.
playing with me, day shift.
Yes.
Turn the lights off. It's too bright in there. Okay. I can't, maybe we should do a poll for that.
Yes.
Lights on or off
exactly.
during your shift.
That'd be a good one. Yes. But yeah, I think it's just, it's really starting with each other. And, because we often see it get places like, oh, supervisors know, but they're not doing anything about it. The worst thing you do is make an assumption that the supervisors know. Secondly, I would hope a good supervisor would be like, did you have a conversation with them first? And again, we got to talk within reason, like we like to be like dispatchers. Like, the problem here is like here by the time we, address it. But, there's some ownership that we have to take in that.
Mm-hmm. From a management standpoint, you see it, you hear it, things are starting to cook, right? You're like, I'm noticing. So there's an inkling with something popping in the center. Mm-hmm. What are kind of the steps you take? Because we have frontline dispatchers that listen to us. We have supervisors, new supervisors. Like, kind of like, what do you do? Like, what are kind of your steps from a management point of view that you take? And this is like low level. This isn't something you have to like act on because it's going to be a liability. Like, this is very like operational. We're trying to manage people situation happening, cooking in the center.
I would say most recently I've learned is taking a little different approach, because again, right, like if you come out of the dispatcher, even if you don't come out of the dispatcher, if you're accepting a management role, you're a fixer. You want to fix it. Like we often say, I just want everyone to be happy. We know no one's making everybody happy, but doesn't mean you don't want that. Like it doesn't mean I still don't want that.
Yeah.
I just have to come with the reality that's never going to happen. But I think the biggest lesson is sometimes, especially the low level ones like you're talking about, is I can't take everything that I catch word of and interject. Sometimes you have to let things like simmer a little bit, because sometimes we move too fast, and that is the problem, because then it's like, who told you that? And like there might be resolve working on its own, or sometimes can be resolved with time.
Yeah.
So I think we have to be careful about jumping in too fast and being like, I got to fix this, or then going to a supervisor, you need to fix this right now. Yeah. Like sometimes you have to like let that go, because there is that balance of like, I'm going to keep an eye on it and make sure it doesn't get, crazy. And then that's what you rope your supervisors in on, right? Like, hey, I need you to keep an eye on this. I'm not asking you to do anything unless you see something egregious happening, But I think sometimes people just need to vent. Hopefully they're venting to the right people, like, because sometimes if you just like vent and you let it simmer, because I used to hear things and I'd be like, we got to change that. We got to fix that. We got to do that. And then you're pivoting every day, you know, and that's the uncertainty to the team. And it just doesn't feel right. I kind of learned like, okay. And when I catch winds of it, I do, if it is somebody that's actually coming to me and not just like the sense or what I'm catching is like, well, what are you doing about it? Because, hopefully they're following their chain of command. But if it is ending to me, it's kind of like, so what are you doing about it? Because if I want them to resolve it on their own and I'm not kind of pointing them back to that, that's part of the problem. But I really think it is just don't move too quickly, at least on the low level ones. Like if something big and egregious, we all know that's when you got to jump in and go with it. But I think the worst thing we could do is overstep and get involved too quickly and not let people, because everyone has a bad day too. And like, what are we talking about? Someone came in a little like spicy that day. Well, that's me on a Wednesday because we're halfway through the week. So,
Well, and my biggest thing is I think every day is an opportunity for professional development. And I think that obviously not everyone wants to be developed every single day. But if you are someone who sees, if we change the lens, dispatching is not just a job, it is a career. If we do that shift first and foremost, you want to do well in your career. You want to be the best dispatcher, right? Like all these things play into professional development. And from a supervisory standpoint, like I want to professionally develop my people. So if and when they want to promote, or maybe it's not even something that deep. Maybe it's like, they want to be a CTO now, you know. I feel like I have a lot of dispatchers now who are coming off of probation, so they're starting to get to this point where we're more comfortable doing this job, and like maybe I can go do, you know, touch some of these other ancillary roles and have more of an impact. For the people who do want to do other things than just show up, do their job, which, hey, the show up and doing your job is
That is okay.
That is the toughest part.
We need those people too, though.
We do. We need those people. But for everyone else who wants to do a little more, I want to provide opportunities for that professional development, right? And challenging them, having them have tough conversations, like it really truly is a part of professional development, learning to be a professional and not just someone at work.
I would completely agree. And that kind of goes to the other thing I feel like I often tell people is every day's an interview. You're interviewing for the position you don't even know that's open yet. You know, they may be creating if you don't have a tactical dispatch team, they may be creating one and you were like, oh my gosh, I would totally want to do that. You don't know if that's going to come to fruition in a month from now, 10 months from now, or you've been angling for a tactical dispatcher position, and once something comes available like that, like every day is an interview. So I would keep that in mind, whether it's CTO, any ancillary day, like you said, any collateral that they may be testing for, or that switch turns on you and go, I want to be a supervisor, and something randomly, someone moves across the country and you weren't expecting the opening. Every day, if you come with that lens, I think it will make you kind of like pushes you towards that really positive communication, and then just how you carry yourself every day. It's a good way to put yourself in check if you think that, you know.
Yeah. And I mean, it's just needed. We need leaders in our center. We need leaders at every level of this work, and from supervision, from management to supervision to frontline dispatches. Like there is opportunities to lead no matter what your title or your role is.
And we often talk about the informal leaders, and I would say I strongly agree. Everybody is a leader in there. You do not need a title to lead. Anyone who answers the phone every day, you are leading the caller to give you the information that you need. You are setting example to the other people in the room. We only hire leaders, and it's not defined by, you know, the insignia on their collar or the title in their job position. That's not what defines a leader, because we very much have, like, we all know there's manufactured leaders that are just like, yeah, I went to this training, I read these books, and they're just a manufactured leader. And then there's the leaders that, you know, like you get a couple, hopefully more than a couple, but you need a good handful or so of leaders that you're like, I would follow them into the fire. Into the fire.
Run to this brick wall. Yes. All right.
I will do it.
Yeah. You know something I don't. I'll do that for you.
And I feel like there is a lot of those out there. And although, like, if you had to name them, like I probably could only name off like a handful or two throughout my whole career that I felt that strongly about. Yeah. But those are the people that you're like, why is it that way? And I bet you there's a tie to all of them about their communication, either the way they communicated with you, how they communicated to the team. Like there's a tie to this communication piece in there, because if they were a really crappy communicator, you're not going to be like, oh, okay, let's run into the fire together, you know? Yeah. So I would just look for things like that. And then it's a pretty simple thing that people say is, if you go, oh, I want to model after my good leaders. So take what you like from your good leaders and be that person every day. And then the leaders that you weren't really on board with, then you'd be like, I will never do that because that didn't work for you. And that's how we create a new leader. Yeah.
You know? And I mean, really how you show up, you are always impacting the world around you in a positive or negative way. Like for me, my belief is there's no action. Like you're either showing up and making me happy that you showed up, or you're showing up and I'm like, why are you here? There's no gray area for me, in my opinion, on that. And with that knowledge, how you are affecting the room may be temporary, maybe Megan had a bad day, but you're still impacting someone, and that does have ripple effects. For example, when we talk about like toxic centers and toxic trainers, right? The effect is people aren't making it through training, or people don't want to make it through training because they don't want to work for this center, right? They don't want to do this job anymore because of how that trainer affected them. I had an amazing training experience at my first agency. So amazing. I created the Raspy Dispatcher. Ripple effect.
Talk about impact, there.
Right?
Yeah,
Talk about impact. If I say it all the time, if I had a shitty training experience, this would not be a thing. Maybe I would have completed my job and I just would have done my job and gone about my day, but because I had such a impactful experience, I decided I wanted to do more to help this industry. Impact, like, you are always affecting things. So shout out to Jessa. If I had a shitty trainer, I wouldn't be doing all this,
That is a great point. And we have those people that resonate with us forever. And shout out to your trainer, obviously, too. I'm a fan already and I don't know you, but and very similar for me, when I got into it, I was like fresh, a young buck. And I didn't actually know, like, I didn't love my initial training experience, but I also was just like, submissive, like, this is just what we do, like, you just kind of go through it. What I had was 2 senior trainers and employees that had some pretty good tenure on pull me aside and went into the supervisor's office, and they're like, she's being mistreated in training, like, basically, like I didn't even realize it. I just thought this was the way law enforcement was. Yeah. Like, I don't know, like, when I started, I'm like, I had no comparable, right? Yeah. And my point being is, they were trainers as well, and they were like, she can't go back to that trainer, this shouldn't be and I was just like, dude, I didn't even know that was shouldn't have been happening.
Like, what do you mean they were punching me in the face?
I was like, oh, that's not how, I thought we had to take a punch. But to your point is, I appreciate that they had the courage to stand up to it and go like, hey, we can't do this. And then I was like, oh, and then I got I got them to train me, and then I was just like, oh, that's like, that's nice. Like I'm like, okay. And, so I just think, like, you're right. There's impactful ways of, like, we have to speak up. But if they wouldn't had communicated that, I would have been stuck. I don't know that I would have said I wouldn't have made it or anything, but I definitely would have had a lot of my experience would have not been.
Maybe you never promoted to management because you were like, F this job. Like, these people are trying, like, it all matters. And especially when we talk about our trainees, I think we're in this really big industry shift where we have, like, millennials and, generation whatever coming in. And then you got the, like, OGs are just like, why are we bending? Or why are we, gosh, what did someone say the other day? They said, kumbaya. If you're listening, I'm not saying your name, I work with you now. We were having a conversation and they were like, oh, this kumbaya shit, and I'm like, yeah, kumbaya shit. But also you gotta meet people in the middle, right? This is one of these industries where, especially when we talk about training, like, sometimes I can't hold your hand and tell you why we need to do this. Sometimes I can tell you to do it, you're doing it, and then maybe we could talk about it after if these phones aren't ringing. But also, sometimes we can't hold hands and talk about it.
100%.
And 100%. You have to meet people in the middle. You gotta mix a little kumbaya with the thug life sometimes. Mm-hmm. That's what you gotta do. And you gotta meet people in the middle. And I think the best trainers, the best CTOs understand that I can adapt on some things. There are some things I'm going to hold you to a hard line, trainee, like, you got to come up here, you got to meet me. But there are some other things that I can adjust and pivot with you to hopefully get you to where we need you to be.
It's our responsibility as leaders, trainers in that room every day, is we have to bend to those people in training, because we have to be able to say, did we do everything we can to make them successful? Mm-hmm. I'm not saying revamp the whole program for one person, and that's not at all what we're saying. But if one way's not working, perfect example, my pet peeve now, but I was 100% this person out of my crew, is I cannot stand the ma'am.
Might have a sticker that you could purchase on the website that is ma'am themed.
Yes. And I also feel like stop, pivot. If the person's not responding, we just be like, like, like there's so many tactics. We won't even get into what you can do.
Yeah.
I got some favorites, but whatever. But it's just like, just doing like, that's like, to me, like, that's like poking the bear. And it's like, if we know it doesn't work, oh yeah, we've just lost 3 trainees because they can't get out of phase 2 because they can't grasp this part. Did we try anything different, or we're just waiting for that one gem that can do it our way, like exactly how we want them? That's just not fair. That's unrealistic. And the time and money you invest in people, it's like, did we try to pivot a little bit? What did we do to help the person out? And that's where I just feel like we can't get stuck in our ways. I know we hate change, but we hate when things stay the same. It goes both ways. But I like, we have to find that in between, in the middle.
Yeah. I mean, in short, as we wrap this episode up, is we know that toxic centers are a thing.
They exist.
We know that our job as 911 dispatchers is communication, and sometimes we struggle to communicate. But we also know that we can make these changes in our center. We don't have to wait for our supervisors. We don't have to wait for management. You can take ownership just for yourself. How I step into this room every day, this thing that I can control, I'm going to own that a little bit. And then you can have conversations with your team about how you guys all do it collectively, right?
And then hold each other accountable.
Yeah,
right?
and
like,
then hold each other accountable. You can start that on your own without anyone saying to do it or waiting to do it. Let's make our centers better.
Lead at the lowest level possible. You will have the most results that way.
1,000%. 1,000%.
All right. So now we're coming to a close. It's been another great episode with everybody. We like to end with our little wrap-up riff so we can end on a positive, fun note. We won't be rapping today, but so I have a couple quick questions for you, Ashley.
All right, hit me.
We're going to do some dispatch survival questions today.
Okay.
All right. So first off, best shift snack.
Oh, snack being guilty pleasure. Shouldn't eat it, but like to eat it. Hot Cheetos. Hot little
That's
what
a
is it?
good one.
Red number 5. Is that what it's called?
Yes.
Yeah, just a little heartburn. You know what I mean?
Can't be. Yeah. Okay. I like it. That's a good one. I don't know. Now these days, I'd like to say I try to make healthier choices now, but back in the day,
We're not talking about our best selves.
Yeah,
right
no,
now.
not at all. I'm like, ooh, I'm a popcorn person, and that means any kind of popcorn.
Okay,
I don't care,
so-
butter, caramel. I don't even name pink
Okay.
popcorn. Yeah, I'm in.
But here's you want to know one of my irrational fears is choking and dying on a popcorn kernel.
Really?
Yeah. So I like popcorn, but like you'll hear at least
You're like, no.
at least 3 times while eating some popcorn because I'm like, oh, this is the moment. This is it.
Did you watch a show when you were younger?
I don't know where this fear comes from or this
Okay,
this
all right.
natural response when a kernel hits my throat, but yeah, it is a real fear that I
Good to know.
It's a really rational fear, but it's there. It's
Mental note made. I got
yeah,
that.
I don't eat popcorn in public, So.
Yeah. Okay. So what would be your go-to caffeine drink? Are you do you need are you a caffeine person? You got to have
I do enjoy the coffees on shift, but I don't think I I don't need it.
Yeah,
You know
need it,
what I
yeah.
mean? But I will enjoy a little Pepsi. A little Pepsi with my hot
pickup.
Cheetos. Yeah,
Ooh, yes.
It's an all-around healthy option at 3 a.m.
What do you have in your center? Like K-cups, espresso machine, anything?
We have K-cups. We have K-cups in our little coffee cart area thing.
Yes. My go-to is definitely I have nothing against any specific coffee shop, but I am a Starbucks girl, very adamant. Don't have to go every day, but if you're asking me my go-to, I'm coming at you with a cinnamon dolce latte
Heyo.
with almond milk. All day, every day.
Are you whipped cream or no whipped cream?
No whipped cream.
No whipped cream. Same.
Yep,
Same
I like to keep it, but yes. What's your go-to after a rough shift?
My go-to after a rough shift. I really do like driving home with the music really loud. back in the day, in my youth, my first car was a PT Cruiser. Had a $2,000 sound system in that thing. Oh, and
You were bumping.
And my Prius had a it just had a bass package. But I've always had a little thump. We from the Bay out here. My stuff always knocks. But now I'm an adult and I have an SUV, so I don't have
a responsible driver.
I don't have a bass package in my car, but I do. I'm in the process of wanting to upgrade the sound system. But my point is, having that little thump, the little bass going home real loud.
That's good. That definitely is a good zone out.
That's a vibe for me. Mm-hmm. I'm rapping every lyric, maybe singing every song from Hamilton. I don't know. It's a vibe. It's wherever I'm going.
You have an eclectic playlist, which I love. Yeah,
I do. I'm a little all over the place.
Never a dull moment that way.
Yeah. I've never been satisfied.
I'm a Netflix and chill kind of girl because I need something to take my mind off, and give me something really a good show that I can just be like, ooh, I'm into this and I'm not thinking about work.
Do you have a show right now that you've been vibing with?
You recommended me a show that I just finished, Heated Rivalry.
Yes!
And I'm and the first thing I was Googling, is there a season 2? What's going on? Because the ending, I'm is this
where are we going? Where are we going? No spoilers.
I just finished that.
Don't watch that one at work.
Do not watch that at work. I just finished that one. So, I'm always looking for another good show.
Right.
Hit us up. Send us a message.
Yeah, let us know.
Okay, and then the last question I have for the dispatch dish is how many tumblers or water bottles are too many for a dispatcher to have?
On shift at their desk?
Well, no, because I'm
just
in general. In general, is there too many?
This is a problem in my house too. So,
I find it is for most.
You always need to get a new one.
You're not wrong.
I've had this conversation with my wife all the time. She's like, you don't need that. I'm like, yeah, but this was different.
It's cute. Yeah.
What number's too? Maybe 30.
Ooh, yeah, you went bit. Yeah, I used to have a whole cabinet full of them, and I was like, okay, we need to downsize. There are 3 people in my home, so that's
that's
fair.
30 divided by 3.
That's fine, 10 each. You gotta have options. I agree. I did have to downsize a little bit, but what I love is our team at work is that's a go-to. They're like, I saw this and thought of you, and da, da, da. And so it's then you're using that one for a solid couple months.
At
you're
least.
Yes,
it's a rotation.
Heck yeah, there's never too many because one, we're always drinking at work. You know what I mean by that.
Non-alcoholic beverages.
Yes, I often say is that no one drinks out of if you're drinking out of a clear water bottle, you're not helping yourself out. No, I'm just kidding. But I honestly don't think there's too many. What I did, my new secret, we share this at work, is my holiday ones. So my Halloween tumbler gets packed with my Halloween decorations. So then I'm not taking up so much room, and it's it's time to decorate for Halloween. Halloween tumblers there.
Okay.
Same for Christmas.
I like this vibe.
It's kind of, that's my tip if you need some more storage. Yeah.
I like it. I like it.
Oh, well, thanks for participating.
Yeah, thanks for communicating with me for the last hour.
Anytime. So we'll see you for another hour of communication.
Yes. Tune in next week or next time. I don't know when I'm posting this. Next time on our First Call Ready podcast. And hopefully if you are listening this long, you subscribe, tell a friend, and of course, stay raspy.
Stay ready.
See you next time.
Bye.
Bye.